Hi, everyone. Welcome back for another round of book talks. Today, we will be recommending some books that we think you will enjoy if you're a sixth grade reader or you would just enjoy reading sixth grade books. We are the teen librarians with Arapahoe Libraries. My name is Catherine, and we also have Lauren and Bridget with us today. And Lauren is going to kick us off with our first book talk.
Everything Sad is Untrue is an autobiography of the author, but it doesn't feel like that when you're reading it. So if you like realistic survival stories, this one is definitely for you. So it's about Daniel and his mother and sister, and they're Iranian refugees that are new to Oklahoma. They just moved there. And as the story goes, you hear what all they've been through. They've been to different refugee camps and different things like that. And their father has stayed in Iran and is hopefully going to join them soon, but he's just wrapping up a few things. And when he starts middle school, he realizes he's the only Persian student in his class, and everyone has questions and comments and different things about the food he eats. I will warn you, there's a bit of bullying if if that bothers you, just let you know. But you really learn about his culture as he's trying to find these connections and things, but also as he's answering questions about all the different things that they're asking about. They aren't believing him because he hasn't lived a life like the people around him have. He's had some huge struggles, lots of starvation times, and just really rough situations. So when they're asking him the questions, he's being honest and he just wants to tell his story, but they're having a hard time believing him. So if you like a fantastic story with new beginnings and new friends, family, kind of learning about yourself and about other cultures, this one is a fantastic pick for you. That's Everything Sad is Untrue.
So this book is called Out of This World, and this is a really good choice if you like sci-fi because this one is sort of the quintessential sci-fi. If you're a fan of Guardians of the Galaxy, this one might be a good choice for you. It follows sort of a ragtag group on this adventure across the universe, but it starts out with our main character and he's on Earth and he's kind of struggling. His parents are super strange. They always put him through these sort of obstacle courses as he's been growing up, and he can never quite do as well as they want him to do. He also has been trying really hard in science and math. His parents are constantly quizzing him on like calculus. He is not in high school, he's in middle school, but his parents are really adamant that he should know all of the science and math that he just struggles with. He is not doing well. And he kind of always feels a bit like a failure because of this. Parents are just kind of strange people, and he meets this, he's new, they've moved to a new neighborhood, he's at a new school, he meets this kid, kind of a nerdy kid at school, who starts asking questions about his parents. And through a series of events, he sort of discovers that his parents are not who he thought they were. And they end up on, he and this kid from school end up on a spaceship. Things happen in between. I don't want to spoil how they get there, but they end up on this spaceship with a group of aliens, and they are setting off across the world because these aliens across the galaxy, these aliens think that our main character is a secret spy that has been sort of has a bounty on his head. And this is sort of a combination like mystery about like this main character is not the spy, so why does everyone think he is? And this sort of spacefaring heist adventure story. Lots of high stakes, lots of really weird aliens. One of them is like an incandescent gas inside of a helmet. There's sort of a telepath character who's really snarky and very entertaining. So there's lots of humor in this, plenty of adventure. It reads really cinematic, and it's one that I think if you are remotely a fan of sci-fi, this would be a really good choice for you to try.
If you like sci-fi horror, suspense thrillers, there's a whole lot going on in this. This Town Is Not All Right by M.K. Chris is an excellent choice. I highly recommend it. It is one of those eerie, set in a kind of very old feeling New England town, and the main characters of the story are twins, Beacon and Everly, and they have just moved there with their father. Everly was having trouble in her old school, and so they have moved here to have a fresh start. But it's one of those towns where, as the name implies, something is wrong, and all of the people who live there are very suspicious and very creepy. Like the people who stand on their porch and just stare at you, and you're not really sure why. And it seems like everyone is hiding something. And then to make matters worse, Beacon actually starts to suspect that there truly is something going on. It's not just that they have moved to a town full of eccentric people, but that they're covering something up because the teacher or the school nurse wants to give them vitamin shots. And when Everly gets her vitamin shot, after that, she is completely compliant, and it's become like she's brainwashed. And he's kind of noticed that this seems to happen with all of the kids in the town. And so he starts to investigate and try to uncover what's going on. This has so many twists and turns. It is so satisfying. My one warning with it, it is part of a series, and it leaves you on the most suspenseful cliffhanger I think I have read in a book in a very long time. So be prepared for that. The next book does come out in 2021, so we will have it pretty soon. But that is This Town Is Not All Right.
If you like paranormal mysteries, Haunt Me is a great pick for you. I really enjoyed it. So Maria has had a really hard time with her sister's death. She died recently. Her name was Isabella, and Maria's struggling with it. They had the same friends, and so they hang out quite a bit together and kind of talk about her and kind of keep her memory alive. And they decided that they need a sleepover. They would like to hang out together and just have a good time. And one of their friends brings essentially a Ouija board, something that you could talk to the other side with. And Maria thinks, oh, this is fantastic. Maybe I could talk to Isabella, see how she's doing and things. And as they start, it gets really spooky. It is starting to move, things are starting to happen, but they get so spooked that they decide to stop. And so they're all seemingly asleep, and Maria hears something. She's being called back to the board. And when she gets back, there's like this message waiting for her. And from there, it's a question of what has happened, what has she unleashed. She's pretty sure it's her sister, but not really, because there's some mean things that are happening. There's things shifting around the house, or she's like seeing things move, and there's like this tension kind of building as she's trying to figure out what has happened and who might it be. Her sister's room is never opened, and they find the door open more often. And it's super cold in there. So there's all of these things happening in this house, and she doesn't want to tell anyone that she went back to the board again because everyone got so spooked. So see what happens if you like that really suspense. I really enjoyed it. I just kept reading and reading. I had to figure out what was happening. That is Haunt Me.
The Unstoppable Octobia May is really great if you are looking for an entertaining, a fun audiobook. I think this one would be the perfect choice. The narrator is wonderful, and it's about this kid Octobia, and it's set in the 1950s. And Octobia she lives with her auntie in a boarding house, this big kind of old boarding house, and she's what I would call precocious. She's got a lot of ideas. She's really outgoing. She wants to kind of get to know people and do things and be active and involved in the community. Except she also has a pretty active imagination, and she kind of decides, after observing some strange behavior of one of the boarders in her auntie's boarding house, that this man is a vampire, that his behavior is sort of inexplicable. He's a vampire, and she needs to figure out how to expose him so that her family and everyone will be safe because they know that he's a vampire. It's a little wacky. The people around her, understandably, are not convinced because nobody believes vampires are real. And so this story kind of follows her as she is trying to figure things out, sort of prove her case. And the other thing that I really liked about it is because it is set in the 1950s, it has all of this really interesting world building that if you're curious about what life was like, Octobia is Black, and she is growing up with her auntie who's also Black, and she is sort of experiencing the world and seeing what life was like, just after World War II ended, and seeing how things were different and what things are the same in that time period to now is also really fascinating. So if you're looking for kind of a mixture of mystery and real life story, has a little bit of a feel to me, just a little bit of a feel like those Nancy Drew stories. If you like those, this one would be good. And if you like something funny, Octobia is really funny, and she and her friends get into hijinks would be the best word, I think, for them. So this one, pick it up if you're interested in a mystery. If you like good audiobooks, there's lots of reasons to try this one out, and I hope you enjoy it.
Mananaland is Pam Munoz Ryan's new book. If you enjoyed Esperanza Rising, or if you like stories that have a mix of a magical feeling with very realistic elements as well, I highly recommend this one. It was probably one of my favorite books that I read this year. It is the story of Max. He has lived with his dad and his grandfather for his entire life. His mother disappeared when he was a baby, and he's not really sure. His dad won't really talk about it. They don't really know what happened to her. And his abuelo has told him stories his entire life, and he loves to sit and listen to his grandfather's stories all the time. Every evening, that's their ritual. And he has told Max about this magical land called Mananaland, where people go, they pass through, and they go, and it's this better place to live. It's like this idealistic world. What Max finds out is that his father and his grandfather have actually been participating in this underground network that helps move people who have fled from bad situations in their previous home life, and they are trying to escape to a better life. And so Mananaland is actually a real place, but is this underground network where they help people get out of where they are, and they secretly move them to other places. And one day, a young girl shows up at the door when both his grandfather and his father are gone. And so Max decides that he is going to take her to Mananaland. He thinks he knows where the next contact is to try and help her get out. It is this beautiful story. There's some pretty heavy topics that are covered in it from time to time, but it also just has this feeling of hope, and you might discover what happened to Max's mom.
If you like stories about World War II, Chance Escape from the Holocaust is a really good book about one family. It's a story about one family, and it's actually a memoir of the author's upbringing. And he is from Warsaw, Poland. He currently, in real life, is a children's illustrator and author, pretty well known. And it's really interesting to see what his upbringing was like. It was a really hard upbringing. The story starts when he's 4, and it's glimpses of memories as he kind of grows up. And so when he's 4, there was a bombing in Warsaw, Poland that took place, and it was the Warsaw Blitz, as they call it. And his family is Jewish, and they found it very hard to find different resources, different assistance after that happened. And so it led them to wander. And so they went to Soviet Union, Poland, Germany. His memories take you all over kind of his experience. And through that, he was getting through kind of emotionally by illustrating things, drawing things, what he saw, writing stories. That was kind of his connection to a different place, even though he was writing about what he was experiencing. And 8 years later, it was 8 years of traveling, trying to find somewhere to fit in. They end up in Paris as a family, and Yuri is able to kind of focus on his art and his writing. His parents were amazing and encouraging, and kind of helping him connect to that side, his creative side. I will say, obviously, there's a lot of hard things to read in this story. There's a lot of starvation. There's a lot of migrating through, and the treatment with them being Jewish in Poland during this time. It's really hard, but it's definitely a hopeful survival story. So whether you like World War II or survival stories, or just that hopefulness of surviving something very tragic, I would say Chance is a great option for you.
This book that I am going to chat about is called The Dark Matter of Mona Starr. And this is a graphic novel, which I picked up because I really liked the cover. I didn't really know what it was going to be about. And it turns out this book is, if you like realistic stories, this would be a really good choice. It is about Mona, who is in high school, and she's into art. She's a great artist. She really likes creating. And she's also struggling a little bit. Her best friend has recently moved away, and she is struggling a bit with these kind of dark feelings. And she refers to it as her matter, sort of like this other piece of herself that really kind of bullies her and picks on her and just brings out all of these bad feelings. It's essentially, if you're familiar with depression, she's basically dealing with depression, and she kind of in her head, she sort of pictures it because of the way that she feels when this happens, the way that she reacts to things and to people, the way she approaches art. All of these are affected by her matter or her depression. And this is her story of kind of living with depression, and what is it like to kind of, she has a therapist that she visits with, but like how how does her life change, and what does she do as she's sort of navigating this? And the parts that I really liked about it, it sounds like it could be a little bit heavy, and at times she's struggling, yes, and so there are some times that are a little bit hard to read or sad, but mostly it's a story about figuring things out and friendship. She starts making new friends. She kind of starts to come out of her shell with a new kid at school who's really into music, and the two of them start to kind of share off their art skills with each other and create things. And it turns into this really interesting story about ways to cope. And it's not like she's magically cured by the end of the story. There's not a magical cure for depression, but that shows her journey and how things for her change and sometimes get worse and sometimes get better, and what that's like. So if you're curious about those types of things, or if you just like realistic stories about school and life and family and friends, this is one of those too, and the art is fantastic. And when you get to the end of the book, if you've got more questions, there's all sorts of cool resources with more information, and there's some different activities that you can actually do at the back of the book that are pretty interesting and like get you thinking about yourself and your own kind of brain and what's going on. So I liked this book quite a bit.
If you're looking for something that will make you laugh out loud, that involves the 1980s and theater, I highly recommend Not Your All-American Girl. It is by two authors, Wendy Wanlong Shang and Madeline Rosenberg, and it is the story of Lauren. Lauren is half Jewish and half Chinese. She loves singing, and in particular, she loves Patsy Cline. She has discovered Patsy Cline on the radio, and she just loves her voice and dreams of being a famous singer like her one day. And the story starts off when Lauren and her best friend Tara decide to audition for the school play. There's going to be a musical. Think of it kind of I imagined it kind of in the style of Grease, but it is about the glory of hula hooping, which sounds very silly, and it is quite a funny musical. But what Lauren finds out is that even though she is by far the best singer in school, the director of the play doesn't think she looks all-American enough because she's Chinese, half Chinese. And so she decides not to cast her in the lead role. And this is kind of the first time that Lauren has experienced something like this, and it hits her pretty hard. And so she decides, she starts to struggle with this. She's trying to embrace her role as just a side cast member, but the more that she thinks about it, the more that she realizes that this is wrong. This is really not something that should have happened just based on the way that she looked. And so she and some of the other kids in the school decide that they are going to stand up to this director, the teacher who's directing the play. It is such a fun story, very heartwarming. It definitely deals with some heavier issues involving racism and other things, but at the end, it is just hopeful and joyful as well. So that is Not Your All-American Girl. And that is the last of our book talks. We hope that you found something that sparks your interest and that you are excited to get your hands on and read. And we are excited to see you again in a month or so. Have a good day.